and welcome to today's podcast episode on mastering the art of memorizing English words. Whether you're just starting to learn English or are looking to polish your vocabulary, memorizing new words can be challenging. But don't worry, today we'll be taking a deep dive into practical strategies that make learning and retaining vocabulary a lot easier. The goal is not just to memorize words, but also to ensure they become an active part of your everyday speech and writing. Why is it so important to have a strong vocabulary? Well, knowing more words gives you the power to express yourself more clearly, accurately, and confidently. But memorizing English words isn't just about memorizing them for exams. It's about using them in real-life situations. It's about being able to hold a conversation, understand native speakers, and even enjoy movies, books, and songs in English without constantly reaching for a dictionary. In this episode, we'll walk through various techniques and tips to help you memorize English words effectively, make learning fun, and stay motivated through the journey. Let's dive right in. The importance of vocabulary in language learning. When we talk about language learning, it's easy to focus on grammar, pronunciation, or fluency, but vocabulary is truly the foundation of it all. Without a strong vocabulary, you may find it difficult to understand others, express your thoughts, or even follow along in a conversation. Vocabulary gives you the raw material to build your sentences, communicate ideas, and comprehend what's being said to you. Think of it this way. Every time you hear a word or come across one in a book, you are adding to your toolbox. These tools, words, help you tackle any situation in English. Without the proper tools, even the best speaker will struggle to convey their ideas clearly. A rich vocabulary helps you avoid sounding repetitive and gives you more options when choosing how to phrase things. The more words you know, the better you can understand the world around you. If you can recognize and recall a wide range of words, you can grasp more of what people are saying, read with better comprehension, and ultimately express yourself more precisely. Let's also not forget that vocabulary is directly linked to listening comprehension. For example, if you don't know the meaning of a word in a conversation, you're likely to get lost or misunderstand the entire point. On the other hand, when you know the words being used, you become more confident in your interactions. The same goes for reading. English literature, newspapers, articles, and social media are all filled with rich vocabulary. The more words you know, the more you can understand without constant interruptions to look up meanings. Understanding the process of memory. Before diving into specific methods for memorizing words, it's important to understand how memory works. This chapter will help you optimize the way you retain and recall English vocabulary. Memory, at its core, involves three main stages: encoding, storage, and retrieval. When you come across a new word, it first needs to be encoded, meaning your brain processes the word and its meaning. If you don't actively engage with the word, it may never make it past the short-term memory stage. This is why it's so easy to forget words you learn without revisiting them. The next stage is storage, where the word is transferred from your short-term memory to long-term memory. This is a critical stage because if you don't review and use the word regularly, it will simply fade from your memory. Repetition, review, and active usage of a word are crucial to making it stick in your mind. Finally, there's retrieval, the act of recalling the word when needed. If a word has been well stored in your long-term memory, you can retrieve it without effort. This retrieval process is much easier if the word is associated with something meaningful in your life. For example, if you learned the word mountain while on a hike, the memory of that experience will trigger your recall of the word. The process of spaced repetition plays a critical role in memory. By reviewing a word at increasing intervals, you reinforce its place in your memory and strengthen the neural connections associated with it. Apps like Anki or Memrise use algorithms based on spaced repetition to ensure that you review words just before you are about to forget them. Techniques to memorize English words efficiently. In this section, we'll dive into specific techniques that can dramatically improve your ability to memorize English words. These methods are scientifically backed and widely used by language learners around the world. The spaced repetition system. Spaced repetition is one of the most effective methods to memorize vocabulary. This system takes advantage of the brain's natural forgetting curve and helps you review words at intervals when you are most likely to forget them. This method ensures that words stay in your long-term memory. SRS software such as Anki, Memrise, or Quizlet allows you to input words, and these tools will schedule reviews for each word based on how well you remember it. The more easily you recall a word, the longer the gap between reviews. If you struggle with a word, the app will prompt you to review it sooner. The keyword method. The keyword method is a memory technique where you associate a new word with a similar sounding word or image. For example, if you are trying to memorize the French word chat, meaning cat, you could associate it with the English word hat because the two words sound similar. Visualizing a cat wearing a hat would help you remember the meaning of chat more easily. This technique works because it creates a connection between something familiar, the English word or image, and the new word, reinforcing the memory. Chunking and word groups. Chunking involves grouping words into categories based on themes or topics. For instance, if you're learning a list of animals, grouping them into categories like wild animals, domestic animals, and marine life can make memorization easier. This method leverages your brain's ability to store information in organized, manageable chunks, making retrieval faster. Another way to chunk words is by learning synonyms and antonyms together. For example, learning words like happy, joyful, and content as a set will help you remember them as part of a related group. Mnemonics and word associations. Mnemonics are memory aids that help you remember words more effectively. You can create acronyms, rhymes, or mental stories to link unfamiliar words to things you already know. For example, the word benevolent, meaning kind-hearted, could be memorized by thinking of a benevolent king who gives gifts. The more vivid and silly the mnemonic, the easier it will be to recall. Another type of association is using a similar-sounding word from your native language to help you remember the meaning. This method can be especially helpful when learning a language that shares many cognates with your native tongue. Active usage. The key to retaining vocabulary. Learning a word is only half the battle. Using it is what ensures it stays in your memory. Active usage means applying new vocabulary in speaking and writing, which strengthens your recall and reinforces the learning process. Engaging in conversations. One of the best ways to use newly learned vocabulary is by speaking. It could be through conversations with a language partner, tutor, or even in online forums. The more you use a word in a real-life context, the stronger the memory association becomes. For instance, if you recently learned the word ubiquitous, try to use it when describing something you see around you. The word will become more natural and ingrained in your language. Writing exercises. Writing is another powerful tool for reinforcing vocabulary. Try writing short stories, keeping a journal, or even composing emails in English. The act of writing forces you to think about word usage and sentence structure, helping you commit words to memory. One exercise to try is to set a timer for 10 minutes each day and write as much as you can, using new words. Learning through context. Rather than memorizing isolated words, try to learn vocabulary within sentences and contexts. When you read a new word in a sentence, pay attention to its context. This makes it easier to understand how the word is used and to remember it in the future. Watching TV shows or listening to podcasts can also expose you to words in their natural context, which makes memorization easier. The role of reading in vocabulary acquisition. Reading is one of the most powerful ways to expand your vocabulary. It exposes you to words in context, which is essential for deepening your understanding of their meanings and uses. When you read regularly, you come across unfamiliar words that will naturally become a part of your vocabulary. But there's more to it than just flipping through pages or scrolling through digital content. There's a strategic way to approach reading to enhance vocabulary acquisition. Choosing the right materials for your level. The first step is to choose reading materials that suit your current level of proficiency. If you are just starting, it might be tempting to pick up the latest bestseller, but that could lead to frustration if the language is too complex. Start with books that are designed for learners or children's literature, which often have simple sentence structures and clear language. Gradually, as your vocabulary expands, you can move on to more advanced materials, such as novels, magazines, newspapers, or even academic texts. You can also opt for graded readers, books that are specially written to match different levels of English proficiency. They come with vocabulary controlled for beginners, intermediate learners, and advanced speakers. This way, you won't be overwhelmed by unfamiliar words and can build confidence as you go. Understanding words through context. One of the most effective ways to learn new vocabulary while reading is to focus on understanding words through context rather than stopping to look up every unknown word. When you come across a new word, read the entire sentence or passage to try and infer its meaning based on the surrounding words and context. For example, if you read the sentence, "The flowers in the garden began to bloom," creating a vibrant scene of colors, and you don't know the word bloom, you can infer from the context that it refers to the process of flowers opening up. By paying attention to how the word fits into the sentence, you gain a deeper understanding than if you had just looked it up in a dictionary. Active reading strategies. Active reading is about engaging with the material to maximize learning. Here are some effective strategies. Highlighting. As you read, underline or highlight new words that catch your attention. Later, go back to those words and review them. Note-taking. Keep a vocabulary notebook where you write down unfamiliar words, their meanings, and example sentences. Write down synonyms or antonyms of the words to build a more comprehensive understanding. Creating word maps. For more complex words, create word maps that include definitions, synonyms, antonyms, and an example sentence. This visual method will help solidify your understanding. Rereading and revisiting texts. Rereading is an excellent way to reinforce vocabulary. The first time you read something, you are exposed to new words, but it's easy to forget them if you don't revisit them. A second or even third reading allows you to see the same words in different contexts, which strengthens your memory. You can also try reading the same material aloud. This helps with pronunciation and reinforces your connection to the vocabulary. Diversifying reading materials. To enhance vocabulary acquisition, don't limit yourself to just one type of reading. Expand the variety of texts you consume. For example, fiction. Novels, short stories, and poetry can introduce you to a wide range of vocabulary, from everyday words to more sophisticated terms. Nonfiction. Articles, biographies, and self-help books often contain specialized vocabulary and can introduce you to technical terms related to specific fields. Digital content. Blogs, social media posts, and news websites allow you to engage with modern language, slang, and idioms. Each type of reading material will introduce you to different sets of vocabulary, and diversifying your reading ensures that you're constantly learning new words that are useful in various contexts. Incorporating vocabulary into daily life. It's one thing to memorize words, it's another to use them regularly. The best way to retain vocabulary is by incorporating it into your daily life. When you actively use new words in conversations, writing, or even when talking to yourself, you reinforce your memory of them. Here's how you can do it. Labeling objects in your environment. One of the easiest ways to surround yourself with new vocabulary is by labeling everyday objects in your home. Stick notes on furniture, appliances, and household items with their English names. For example, label the fridge, microwave, sofa, or window. These constant visual reminders help reinforce the words every time you interact with the objects. You can also label objects in your workplace or classroom. This way, you will be continuously exposed to the new vocabulary throughout your day, and you will naturally begin to associate the words with the items. Speaking to yourself in English. If you are shy about speaking with others in English, start by speaking to yourself. Describe what you are doing, where you are going, or how you feel. For instance, while cooking, say to yourself, "I need to chop the vegetables. I'll stir the sauce in the pan." By speaking aloud, you reinforce vocabulary usage and get used to hearing yourself speak English, which helps with fluency and comfort. Another technique is to narrate your day. While driving, say, "I'm driving to the store. The traffic is slow today." This technique, known as self-talk, is incredibly effective for reinforcing vocabulary, using English in daily conversations. The more you speak English, the easier it becomes to recall words in context. Start with simple phrases or sentences when talking to friends, family, or colleagues. If you are unsure about a word, try explaining it in simpler terms or using a synonym. For example, instead of saying, "I feel jubilant," you could say, "I feel very happy." Over time, you will feel more comfortable using more advanced vocabulary. You can also find a language exchange partner or take part in conversation practice groups, either in person or online. These settings provide a supportive environment where you can experiment with new words and phrases without fear of making mistakes. Using vocabulary in writing. Writing is another fantastic way to cement vocabulary. You can keep a daily journal where you write about your day or thoughts in English. Make a conscious effort to use new words you've recently learned. For instance, if you've been focusing on adjectives like content, optimistic, and enthusiastic, try to use them in your journal entries. Writing essays, blogs, or even short stories is an excellent way to practice vocabulary in a more structured manner. Don't be afraid to experiment with new words, even if they feel a bit unnatural at first. The more you use them, the more comfortable they will become. Integrating vocabulary through social media. Social media is another useful tool for language practice. Follow accounts that post in English, whether it's related to topics you love, news, or entertainment. You can engage with posts by leaving comments, joining discussions, and asking questions in English. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook groups related to hobbies or interests can also expose you to informal language, slang, and expressions commonly used by native speakers. Additionally, consider sharing your experiences in English on your own social media, whether it's posting captions, stories, or statuses. Writing in English will push you to incorporate new vocabulary into your daily communication. The power of consistency and motivation. Learning a language is a long-term commitment, and the key to success is consistency. It's easy to get motivated at the beginning, but staying motivated over time can be more challenging. In this chapter, we'll explore the importance of staying consistent and maintaining motivation. Building a consistent routine. Consistency is essential when it comes to memorizing vocabulary. It's better to study a little bit every day than to cram once a week. Start by setting aside time for vocabulary practice every day, whether it's 15 minutes in the morning or 30 minutes in the evening. This habit ensures that you are consistently exposed to new words and are reviewing the words you've learned. Over time, you will build momentum, and learning vocabulary will become part of your daily routine.